We just programmed the heart of our app, the random answer generator. This simple algorithm is our top secret intellectual property, so protect it closely. Now we can start to improve the look and feel bit by bit. We want to make it look better and work better. So let's start by changing those numbers to something more meaningful. The words yes, no, and maybe.
But first, we left off with a question. Why is our app showing 0, 1, and 2 instead of 1, 2, and 3? There's no brief answer for this, but basically it comes down to math. Sequences of things in programming languages often start with 0 because it makes complex math easier to program. There's some good information about this on the internet if you care to know more about the details. The parameter for the next int method is the exclusive upper bound, meaning that it will generate numbers up to, but excluding 3. And it starts generating at 0. This may seem a little confusing at first, but the more you program, the easier it gets. Alright, let's start by deleting the line we added before that converted our number to text. Then, let's add another comment like this to explain what we'll do next. We need to check the value of random number and then set the answer variable accordingly. Let's write this out in comments and then we'll convert it to code. I'm going to paste in a block of comments here, but don't worry too much about typing them out because we're just going to replace them with code. Okay, let's look at these first two lines. If random number equals 0, then set the answer variable equal to yes. This format, where you check if something is true and then do something about it, is called a conditional statement. In this case, we're using the if conditional, which is one of the foundations of programming. This makes sense. For many things we do on a computer or phone, we want to change how it works if something happens or if the user chooses something. The syntax for the if conditional is if condition, then execute the Java statements inside the curly braces. We start with the keyword if in all lowercase. Then we put parentheses around the condition we're testing. If the condition is met, then the code inside the curly braces gets executed. Having the curly braces wrap the code that gets executed is similar to what we've seen for wrapping the code that gets executed when a method is called. Java, like many other languages, uses curly braces to start and finish blocks of code. Let's start converting our English comments into code. Notice that we have 3 different conditions to test, one for each number-answer combination. Let's do one at a time. Insert a new line below the first comment, like this. Type if, and then we're going to put all the structural pieces in place. We'll come back and fill in the condition. Type the parentheses and the opening and closing curly braces. If I hit enter after typing the first curly brace, then Eclipse kindly adds the closing brace for us. Thanks, Eclipse. Now we want to check if random number is equal to 0. Between our parentheses, type random number equals 2 equal signs, and then 0. Okay, now why 2 equal signs? Well, I'm glad you asked. Look at line 30 up above. Here we just have 1 equal sign. In Java, 1 equal sign is used for assignment into a variable. So if we used 1 equal sign down here, it would assign the value 0 to the random number variable. Remember, computers do exactly what we tell them to, so we need to follow all the rules and be very, very specific. Because 1 equal sign already has a meaning, Java has us use 2 equal signs instead. 2 equal signs together tests for equality. So in this case, the 2 equal signs say, is random number equal to 0? Okay, so what if it is equal to 0? What do we do next? Let's move our comment below into the curly braces. That's what we want to do. We've already seen how to set the answer variable to a text value, so type answer equals yes. Okay, 1 down. Now what about the other 2? We could do the exact same thing and just change the number in the condition and the string value for the text answer. And that would be mostly okay. Let's start with that. Copy these lines of code and then paste them below. Let's get rid of this comment. Now here we want the number in our condition to be 1, and we want the answer to be no instead. This will work as we have it here, but let's make a change to protect ourselves from ourselves. What if we had forgotten to update the number in the condition, like this? Now what would happen when this code runs? The computer processes the code line by line, So it would come through and it would start at line 40. If random number were 0, then it would go in and execute line 42, and it would set answer equal to yes. Then it would exit this conditional. Line 43 shows the end of this block of code, and move on to the next line, line 44. Here it would check this second conditional and see that random number is in fact equal to 0. So now it would drop into line 45 and set answer variable to no instead. Yipes, that's not what we want. This may seem a little contrived, but things like this do happen. So let's add a new keyword, else, in front of this second if. The else keyword tells the computer only to check this next condition if the first condition was not met. It's a way of chaining conditions together to make sure that we only test as many as we need to. In this case, if the first condition is met, the else keyword will tell our Android device to skip this else condition, and then resume where it ends, here on line 46 with the closing brace. Okay, let's change this 0 back to 1. Delete all these comments, and then work on the last condition, the maybe condition. Let's copy lines 44 through 46, paste below, change 1 to 2, and change no to maybe. We can use the else keyword to keep chaining conditions together. So if condition 1 is not met, and then condition 2 is not met, condition 3 here will be checked. Now this will all work, but let's add one more thing. Add a new line after our last conditional, and type else all by itself. Type a space, an open curly brace, hit enter, and there's our closing curly brace. This is what is known as the default case. That's because an else statement by itself will execute if all the other conditions fail. This can also be used to check for errors. In our case, our app should never get here unless we made a mistake. Because this is the error case, let's set the answer variable as an error message like this. Answer equals, sorry, there was an error. Okay, let's switch over to Sublime Text and take a look at the if condition syntax we were looking at earlier. Sometimes you don't want anything to happen if a condition isn't met, and you can use the if condition all by itself like this. Other times you might want to take a different action, so you can add the else statement like this. And for reference, here's the syntax for chaining multiple if-else-if statements together, which is like what we just did in our app. Okay, let's test it out. Let's save and run our app. If you want to test out error handling too, then you can change the parameter in the next int method from 3 to something else, like 4. But I'm going to leave mine as is. Cool, alright, let's ask our app a few questions. Will I have cookies for dinner? Will world peace happen in my lifetime? Cool. Will I rule the world?
Well done. I might not always agree with its answers, but our app is working pretty well. Let's give it a little personality next.